Hey YouTube! So 2020 pretty much over, a couple of days away. So I decided what I would do is I would look through all my videos and see what guitars I ended up buying for myself and keeping. Obviously the plan was when I moved here I was going to reduce the guitar collection and work. Yeah, so you can see I've moved things out a little bit. This is pretty much the first 6 months of this year's guitar and bass collection. It wasn't that long ago I did a video on this one. I got this, I seem to remember finding it on Christmas Eve last year, and it was, I buy it now on it, which was quite reasonable, and then I sat there and I was looking at Christmas Eve and I was like, do I buy it now, do I buy it now, do I buy it now, and it was like, no, because there was a starting bid as well, so I think it was buy it now $250, something like that, and the starting bid was 80, so I was like thinking, I'm pretty sure this bass is worth the 250. So I bid the 80 and then waited like the whole 10 days for the full auction, so it became into this year, into 2020, and I sat there and I was sitting there going, this is going to go for more than the 250 that I should have said yes at the start. So I was sitting there watching it right down to the last couple of minutes. There was a couple of bids and I got it for a song, so it worked out well. But if you really want something that you see, you know, it's like a £200 buy it now and £100 starting bid, weigh it up, because that wasn't a fun week. Even though, as you'll see with my guitar collection, my way of getting them cheap is not to be specifically after something, and if you get it sort of thing. I wasn't even aware what a Vox White Shadow was when I saw this, but it's Chushin built 1984, I think, Japanese. I like the shape. And it's got like a sort of coffee table type top on it. A DiMarzio type as I go to pick up, I'd imagine, which is in a strange place. You would normally expect it to be up here a bit, so it's maybe a little bit treblier. It's got actually a bridge, in fact I wonder if it's the same bridge, to the Washburn Vulture. These are normally brass blocks. On this one they're either brass blocks painted black or they're just metal blocks painted black. Yeah, so it's a 24 fret, which is quite strange for a bass, especially from 1984. Black tuners, bolt neck. Not really much else to be said about it apart from it's pretty cool. I nearly got a matching guitar during the summer, but why did I not get it? I can't remember. Sometimes these things just don't happen. I think the guy wanted too much for it, and I made a sensible offer, which was about the same as what I paid for the bass. And I think he just withdrew it and kept it, which, you know, happens sometimes. You go, oh, I'll sell this guitar. What's only worth 150 quid? So I'll just keep it in. You know, you're always going to get a bit of that. So this was the start of January. Got myself this bass. I'm going to turn the volume of the bass down a little bit because I don't want the speaker to be distorting. Full treble, full tone. Tone off. It's also got a wee mini switch on it, which is phase, to remember. That make a huge difference, right? I don't know what much use is that. This is actually, I think it was this year, I decided there was a reason for having the really trebly pickups in a bass, and it was because in the 80s there was an awful lot of synthesizers kicking about and really started coming in, so bass players were maybe not just playing the bass anymore, they needed a twangy sound. So I'm trying to remember how to play Rio. I'm sure it's like You know, that, I was thinking about the 80s thing. Not as much used to be. And this is before lockdown, so I did actually get to use this in the Black Sabbath band, and it sounded really good. A couple of weeks ago I put strings on it, which I think were the first strings, or maybe about a month ago. The last video, if you look back at the month, I put strings on it because I think the strings that were on it were the original ones from 1984. So it was kind of dead sounding. It made a huge difference putting decent strings on it. Good quality bass, so quite an unusual shape. There is a guitar line of this. I've not managed to find one yet cheap enough. It's kind of mad the way this, in the picture that I saw when I originally bought it, I didn't realise it had this sort of reverse offset thing going on here. But I think it looks quite cool. Yeah, so that's 5 minutes, so I'll move on to the next one. So this was January, first guitar of the year, and I'm going to try and pause this and then repause it, unpause it. Seamless, yes. So moving on, still in January, I fixed up a bass for my pal Scott, whose pal had bought a Westone Thunder bass from, I think it was a car boot sale, paid like 30 quid for 40 quid or something. Imagine finding a Thunder bass for 40 quid. Well, actually I kind of did, but you know what I mean. But it didn't have a pickup in it, so my pal gave me, his eyesight's gone bad, so he used to be a guitar tech, he knows how to do all the building, but he can't actually solder anymore, so I'm doing all the soldering for him, which works out really well for me, to be honest. Hi Scott. So this was a donor guitar because it had a DiMarzio type pickup in it, and probably being from, is it 82 this one? 83, it's likely pretty much the same pickup that you get in a Westone Thunder, being Aria Pro made the Matsumoku plant, just like the Westone Thunder was. So that the pickup came out of this, went into the Westone Thunder, and he said, "Do you want this bass?" And I was like, "Well, it's quite a bad headstock break." It was really cheap. It was damn cheap. So I was like, there wasn't any haggling involved. It was like, "Oh, as long as it's really cheap, I want." And they were like, "Yeah." Didn't even really need to ask. So what's happened here is the headstock actually has split right down the middle of the tuners. I have since glued it, and it had been screwed back on again with these 5 screws. So I basically took it off, wood glued it, and then just put the screws back in again. Got it. I'm not intending on selling it anyway. Took me a few months to get it because I got it. It didn't have. I don't think I had the bridge. I had the neck and the tuners, the split headstock, the neck plate. It didn't have the scratch plate. And I was like, it took me a few months to eventually get round to going around to the guy's house, lives in East Kilbride, and I picked up the scratch plate just so I had something to draw around because a P-bass one didn't quite fit. You know, I needed cut pretty much every angle, and I was, you know, I was willing to do that. I thought, but he said he had the scratch plate somewhere in his garage or in his room, and I was like, right, well, if I can get the scratch plate, it means I can draw around it and get it the exact right shape. So what had happened was the scratch plate was all smashed up down here, but this bit was still here. So what I did was I got a bit of metal plate there, and then just sort of drew around what was left, made it down, filed the edges down. Michael Beckman, if you're watching, he said there's no way you can make it out of that, it'll take the skin off your fingers. Totally doesn't. It's totally smooth. I did, after he'd said that though, I was quite careful to angle grind around the edge to make it so it was quite smooth before I painted it. And then these knobs are from an Axel Badwater. It's like sometimes knobs just sit in your parts box forever until you find the bass that they look right on, and to me they just look right on this. This pickup here is out of a Washburn B2, which I bought and basically stripped for parts. I didn't like it. It was a sort of 1989, 1990, pretty ugly thing, and I put that pickup in just because it was the only P-bass pickup I had. Kinda, you can see it's a wee bit later because it's got the sort of EMG looking look about it, and that's just a box standard P-bass bridge from my parts box. So it basically didn't cost anything. I've never changed the strings on this either. I can actually see looking at them that the D string is significantly newer than the other ones. So this is another one of the ones that I will need to restring. I have taken this into the Sabbath band as well, and I absolutely loved it. There's something about this bass that's just so small and economical. It's a 32-inch scale. I didn't mention that the Vox is a full. It's the 34-inch. So this is the Japanese sort of medium scale 32-inch, which is it's exactly halfway between well, a full size bass, an EBO, so it's 34 and 30, so 32 in the middle. It just feels great. The neck on it, is it a one piece? It's not a one piece. Well, I'm looking to see if it is, but it doesn't have a skunk stripe, so it can't. Very, very dented. It's almost got to the point that there's so many dents in the back of the neck you can't feel them anymore, which is fine. But I really like this. It's a very, very similar neck to my Aria ZZB, which was the bass that started my hoarding because I sold it when I was 18 or something like that, and I always regretted it. I hunted for it for 20 years trying to find another one with the maple fretboard, and then a couple of years ago I got the exact same one back, totally in tears. So this is a bit, it's not Explorer shape, but it's a very similar, it's a 32 inch scale, and it's an Aria Pro from, which is what, 83? The ZZB, something round about then as well. This is a TSB, which stands for Thor Sound Bass, and this is one that I haven't actually squeezed into my new guitars this year, even though it feels like a new guitar because I put P90s in it. Oh, come on. Something's sitting on it. Come on. I should probably have paused this bit. Come on. Release. 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 Released. Yeah. So there's a Thor Sound guitar, and you can see there is a family resemblance to it. This is an 82. You can see it's kind of this bit's sort of there. It's a bit more Fendery, but so I've got the Thor Sound bass and guitar set, and both of these are really good. The TSB Standard is what it's actually called. It says TSB Series on the head, but it's actually a TSB Standard. Yeah, so I mean it's not inexpensive to buy bass. I've never seen really very many other of them. If you see one, just buy it. If it's less than, if it's like a couple £100, just buy it. It's totally, it's like a P-bass turbo or something like that. As I said, these strings are were on it. So when you buy a guitar for peanuts and you get to keep the strings on it, that's fine. But I've used this to Sabbath band, I absolutely loved it. Full tone. No tone. I've not played this in 6 months. This is an awesome bass, it really is. Maybe the tone screws that are holding the headstock on are helping things. But when I saw that, I was like, I'm going to have to make it work. Whether it involved putting the tuners on the bottom or something like that, I wasn't really sure. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, it's like, I have to have that. Got something in my throat. So no fancy electrics in this. It's a P-bass, or it's a slightly short, lightweight turbo P-bass. I used this a few times in Sabbath band. I'm going to use this again. I really like it. It's getting new strings on it. Sometimes you get a guitar that just feels, here you go, this is it. It is what it is. There's no excess fanciness. Actually, and I'm really proud with the metal bit here, kind of makes it maybe even more interesting than it would be if it was new, and I suppose it's now stronger. The problem that happens with a lot of P-basses is, because the volume controls and the jack socket are mounted on a plastic scratch plate, they tend to get bashed in, or the lead snaps off and it kind of cracks the scratch plate. So this has got this sort of, I suppose it's a sort of jazz bass idea, why the jazz bass has the metal bit that takes the knobs for that exact reason. So there we go. So yeah, that's guitar number 2, well, basses is quite bass heavy. I went through a bit of a bass month for some reason, but that's not my choice. It's just when these things appear, you have to take them. So pause again, going for the next one. And at number 3, we've got my Epiphone EBO Papaya Baby Metal thing. This is like back when gigs were still on. I got to see Baby Metal, and the single at the time was Papaya, and there was a guy giving out Papaya stickers, and as soon as I saw it, I thought, that's going in the head of that bass I just painted, to give it some colour. The other thing I'm kind of needing to do this is Geezer Butler's, his isn't actually a Gibson EBO, it's a, is it John Birch? Either John Birch or the other guy, Joe D, the guy who worked with John Birch, made him a EBO type thing in this stripy colour, inverted crosses, or not, crosses on the fingerboard, which I painted in glow in the dark paint. The reason I did that was because this is maybe about 2 or 3 weeks before we did the Black Sabbath gig, the one that was meant to be the first of many, but the lockdown happened, get cancelled the week after. And we were wearing like sort of monk's robes with a big hood, and we were practicing playing in the studio, and I couldn't see where I was playing. You know, it was very difficult to see. So what I did was I put these big glow-in-the-dark white marks on the side. I've seen Paul Gilbert do that in one of his basses as well. So basically that means that no matter how dark it is, you can see where the 3rd fret is. It's easy. And while I was doing that, I thought, you know, I had the strings off, I had to paint, and I was like, I'm putting crosses in the fingerboard. Sod it. It does need, I need to make another wee scratch plate for the top, because Geezer Butler's has got a wee scratch plate. Also, his has a, like a Coca-Cola sticker that says cocaine instead of Coca-Cola. I don't appreciate cocaine in any way, but I was thinking of actually just putting a Coca-Cola badge on it. That was kind of where the Papaya thing came in, to just put some colour on an entirely colourless base. I didn't paint the back of the neck, so it doesn't look ideal, but I mean, I felt because I could feel it. Yeah, so I had one of these years ago. I've already mentioned this in this video that the bass I always regretted selling was my Aria Pro ZZB, which is like an Explorer type bass. I traded that in. I got 60 quid for it, trading in against the first Epiphone EBO ever. Well, the serial number was 980000000008, I think, or something like that, and it was I bought it in Merchant City in Glasgow, and the guy's like, I think you probably got the first one in the UK. I thought, oh really? Because I pre-ordered it when I heard they were coming out, because I loved my Epiphone SG and I always wanted an EBO bass, and there really wasn't any option to buy them. The only time you ever saw them was you could get sort of 60s and 70s ones by Gibson. Then Gibson didn't make them again, and there wasn't a cheapy version, so you had like sort of Japanese copies and stuff like that, which I wasn't really. I've got one upstairs, but they're it's a bit unknown if you don't know what you're looking at. What if you're just buying like an SG copy base? It might be plywood and rubbish, or it might be good. But it's not as good a bass as the Aria Pro, and I was kind of aware of that, even though it did look much cooler, because it was at the time I was playing Stones and Beatles songs and stuff like that, so having an EBO was pretty much perfect, as opposed to having a turquoise Explorer shape, which didn't really fit in. I tried to make up for the fact it's got the Mudbucker in it, which is a sort of a really muddy, horrible sound. I put a jazz bass pickup in it as well. The reason it's got like a black box painted around it is because I drew around the pickup with black pen, so I knew which bit when I routed it out. I routed it out, painted it white, and the black pen showed through the white paint. I was like, oh, so I just taped it off and painted that bit black as well while I was doing the black stripes. So it's a it is a white guitar with black stripes. Is it? Is it a black guitar with white stripes? I don't know. I can't remember whether it's black with white stripes or white with black stripes. I think it must be white. It must be white with black stripes, because then that's how you drew the box around it. Yeah. Anyway, so volume and tone as usual, and this is a 4-way rotary, which gives you, from memory, that should be just the jazz bass pickup. Tone up low. And that should be the neck pickup. So this is the sound that normally comes with. Then the next one is both the pickups on in parallel. And then the last one is both of them wired Garage as a humbucker. Try to do a backing track with doing the bass first, which is not really that easy to do. Sounds good enough. Yeah, in the middle of a big long video, make a mistake like that, great. Actually, my memories of these basses was it was awful, because when I got my Schecter P bass, this thing went, my EBO went straight in the bin. Well, it got traded in or sold, I can't remember. Don't actually know what I did with it. I put it down as a deposit on the Schecter, to be honest. Yes, because I seem to remember not having a bass for a couple of weeks. Back in the day, when it was like a couple of weeks when I was in a band and borrowing basses off folk because I didn't actually own one. Like, wow, that's been a while since that happened. But this one plays much better than the one I had. Whether the one I had just really needed set up, it had bad strings on it or whatever. This one's a later on one. This is an Indonesian one. Serial number 08. So maybe 10 years newer than the one I had. I think mine was a 98, I seem to remember. That'd probably tie it in. 98. That'd be 20. Yeah. So that's probably when I bought it. Playing for 2 years or a year. That sounds about right. Yeah. So I mean, EBOs can be made to be all right. I do the original pickup sound. I found very muddy and kind of unusable. Actually, the bass player in Cranking House, Nick, hello, plays one of these unmodified, and it's a really difficult one to play in a band. It sounds good though, but it's because it's so boomy. You seem to be sitting there. It's dead difficult to get the volume right. You're either I can't hear myself, and you turn it up just a wee bit, and then suddenly you can't hear anything but the bass. It's quite a difficult. In the right band, I think it works. It works really well in Cranking House because they're just like there's just got a three-piece. We've got a singer, so we've got like just drums, bass, and guitar. So it's great for filling out space, like in a three-piece or something like that. But it's not really. It doesn't. So So I got this for buttons because it was actually for sale on Facebook Marketplace just as a body. I think it was like 10 or 20 quid, something like that. Body, and it had to pick up in it and the bridge, and I thought, well, where am I ever going to find a neck for EBO? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not a very common, it's a 30-inch scale, it's not going to be that easy to find a neck for it. So I was sitting there looking at it, and I waited an hour or something, and a couple of my pals, messaged me the thing, and I was like, I'll see what it said. And it's like, so what is exactly is wrong with the neck? And it's like, what's happened? He's the guy's like, you've had the neck as well, it's broken, but... So what happened was it had been basically pulled off. The body had been dropped. And what that meant was, I think at least 2 of these screws were just bent and sort of ripped out of the actual neck. They were still, the body was alright, but they were just ripped out of the neck. So I kind of filled it and then just glued the bastard up with PU glue and then put the bolts back in again. So it's sort of a set neck maybe now. I could have put a bit more effort into it to make it look like a set neck, but I mean, if you're sitting there talking about something, rather than clamping it, I'll just screw it on and it'll be great. And it's been to be solid. Actually, when we played the gig, I used this very bass. Quite funny playing a gig with other people and getting a little bit more attention than some of the other bass players who were there who had real basses. One of them seemed to remember had a Rickenbacker bass. That's like a $2,000 bass, and I'm turning up with a £20 Epiphone. I didn't hide the fact that I did reshape the headstock a bit to something, but I left the Epiphone truss rod cover, so you can still see it as an Epiphone. It still says Epiphone on the back of the neck. But again, it's one of those ones that's kind of like that bass there. I was going to keep it. It's the sort of thing I could probably have just done it up and sold it, but then the whole idea of having, being in the Black Sabbath band, actually having a Geezer Butler Never Say Die looking bass was worth it. I've not mentioned it actually around about this time. I also got my After the End amp, which I bought again on Facebook Marketplace, and I made a mistake with it because I used to have a wee Stag amp. I think it was a 20 watt Stag bass amp, which it was an alright amp, but I just thought, it'd be nice, a Marshall one. Oh, and it was really cheap, and I thought, that's going to be perfect. It'll sit on top of the, where the wee Stag bass amp was, and it'll just be better because it's slightly bigger. I did know it had a 15-inch speaker in it. When I went to see it, I did not expect it to be that size though. I was expecting it to be 2/3 of that size. It was like it's like, and I had to carry it, and it's a bit of a beast. 150 watt, great. Also around about that time, I've been doing the song NIB Black Sabbath. So I've got like a wah-wah solo at the start of it, so I needed a wah-wah pedal. And I was also using a Behringer overdrive to get a bit of fuzz and a tuner pedal. So I was lugging all that stuff about, and I thought, hold on, I might buy a multi-effects unit. So basically all this stuff, all this uses for, it's got a tuner in it, it's got a wah-wah that you can switch on and off, and it's got a fuzz. It did all the things that I wanted with one plug, or batteries. I think I'd actually ran it in batteries. So even though I don't like multi-effects, I mean, it does thousands of things that I can't be bothered plugging it in just now. It does lots of stuff, but basically, because I was already lugging about a Crybaby wah-wah, and if you've ever owned a Crybaby wah-wah and you're carrying it out in a gig bag, it weighs the same as a bottle of bucket. It's a heavy, annoying thing, and that basically is lighter than just the Crybaby, and also has a tuner, and also has the fuzz pedal in it. So it was a no-brainer. So that's my multi-effects. So I'm not so against multi-effects as I used to be. I should probably actually, I'll delve into it, try and maybe get a few different levels of fuzz. Basically all I've got is, patch 1 is a little bit overdrive and the wah-wah. Patch 2 is sort of fuzz, and then that's it, and I don't use anything else. It's always either wah-wah or fuzz, or both, there's nothing else. This is going to be a long video, better warn you. I've only done 3 and I've got about another 4 to go, so hopefully I've got a bit of a backing track now. Back in a second. Seamless, I tell you. So, here we've got a Vantage. I wrote this down. It's a V318. This is in February. I bought this. I have a Vantage TD3X or something like that, which basically looks the same as this, apart from it's 3 single coils, and it's black with red, not just a red binding in the body, but it's got like red, the middle bit of the scratch plate. Sometimes you get black, white, black. It's black, red, black. and it's the same headstock. I've got a Vantage Avenger, a purple one, which I absolutely love. I've got the black one, which I kind of like, but I'm not a super fan of, and I bought this one. This is quite a rarity. If you look up Vantage guitars, they look like this in the 80s from Japan, and then in about 1986 or 7 or whatever, whenever we moved to Korea, Vantage moved to Korea as well, and all the guitars they made from then on were basically Strats or Tele shapes with this headstock. This one, however, actually says made in Korea on the back of the headstock. So I think what this is an old, it's like a salvage model. So when they moved from Chushin, they had some bodies left. So I think it's a Japanese body. These are Japanese pickups because I've seen them in Quest guitars. They've got like a wee ohms symbol and a wee red triangle in the corner. And the neck, I think, is Korean. It's got Goto tuners on it. It's got £50 worth of tuners on it. So I've never really felt that attached to this guitar because it's not purple. The purple one I just like better. I'm probably going to sell it. Just haven't got down to it yet. So it's kind of like it's an HSS. It's like a strap with a humbucker bridge. That sounded in tune. It's not quite in it. Better. Oops. Position 4. Middle. Position 2. Humbucker. This one doesn't have any sort of coil splitting in it. Been messing about with different pedals, which I'm not going to do today. Yeah, I put these strings on this 6 months ago, or what did I say, February? And they're not elixirs, they're just rotos, so they're a little bit dead and going. But actually, the neck on this is really nice. It's actually very like the Strat I just bought. Very much a copy, more so than the Japanese ones are. So Korean neck, the rest of the guitar Japanese, I think, don't really know. But these are great guitars. And it's the thing that's amazing is you can pick up something like this and you compare it to, actually one of my pals is looking at like a Japanese early Squire, and it's like 400 quid, and it's like, these don't cost 400 quid, and it's basically same factory type stuff, same guitar, slightly different shape. I quite like this shape. I like this headstock. See, it's got, I don't know if you can really see it this way, it's got a sort of a concave there that goes round the bottom. That's pretty cool, the Bullet Truss Road. Nice guitar, not 2-point trem, not fully decided what I'm going to do with it. The problem with it, as I said, it's not worth as much money as it should be, is I don't really want to sell it because it's like, you know, it's really, I could just swap this straight up for a cheap Strat, you know, like a cheap Squier one, and it's 10 times better than a crappy Squier, definitely. I suppose now, I think this is a Samick built. It feels like a Samick. I've had a few Hondos that were made by Samick. My Epiphone SG was made by Samick. They made most of the guitars in the 90s. I can't remember when I decided what year this was from. Well, the serial number starts E7. That means 87, doesn't it? Yeah. Could have probably had a wee guess at that, but the fact it's got the covered pickups, which was a big 1984, 1985, 1986, 1987 fashion thing, was having all the black on it. I kind of missed the point of having the black, maybe with black tuners as well, although these are original. But yep, so we'll move on. Hey, according to my videos that I got this year, I don't remember. I thought I'd had it longer than that. Maybe not, but I mean, the video of me saying I've got an 8-string, here's me trying to play it, was this year, was in March. So, must have been in March I got it. This is it's got a long name. It's a Jackson Through-Neck 8-string guitar. You can see it's got a carved top. It's also got like a sort of flamed maple veneer. Seymour Duncan, I think it's a Nazgul and a Sentient or something like that. I like Nazgul, the Lord of the Rings in there. Hardtail, 24 frets, 8 strings. So you've got a normal guitar, and then you've got a low B, like a 7-string, and then you've got a low F sharp, like another string lower than that. I did a video for this about a month ago or something like that. I broke into it and put a coil split in it, because although an 8-string you meant to be playing detuned metal, I figured that I was going to do something else. So I've got kind of nice and jangly sounding. Obviously you're meant to be more. That's it. Go back into humbucker mode, put some fuzz on, and back on with the track. Wasn't that long ago I did this a video this week. All these guitars, did I write down what it was? It's a SL80HHQ3/8TB. It's like, who wants a Washburn Vulcan when you can have a SL80H, whatever it is. It's going to take me 10 minutes to get back into playing this again. I was making my mistake of getting lost again there, which I kind of got over. I played it for a few hours a couple of weeks ago. It's one of those things. This and acoustic I want to learn to play more, and as I said that last week when I cleaned up one of my acoustics, and I don't think I've played it since. That's what it's kind of meant for. points of reference for an 8-string guitar. I'm kind of approaching this as it's something else. Not really been that mad into it, although Baby Metal do use 8 and 9-string guitars and stuff like that, so I could probably find something to play, but I'm kind of looking at it more as like a sort of bass and a guitar at the same time. Actually, it kind of feels a wee bit like a short scale bass because the strings are quite floppy, which happens when I was talking about these basses. It's like full string tension somewhere in the middle and a sort of bendy floppy strings because of the length of the neck. This has kind of got that. I think it's a 28-inch or something like that, so it's just slightly smaller than the EBO. It feels much bigger, but I mean that's just because the neck's like an oar. It really is. I mean it's pure. So you can't really describe what it's like playing a neck that's just this fat. Fun. Pause again. And I'm back, and this is still in a March. So I always kind of wanted a Westone Thunder. I keep seeing them, and I saw this, and it's like sometimes you see a guitar, and I've just noticed now it's got a slightly dodgy input on it, which is pretty annoying. But there you go. So I mean, isn't this an absolute stunner, really? So this is a Westone mute. So this is a Westone Prestige 227, a very dusty one because it's been hanging on my wall because I like looking at it. In Redburst, this is called, which is a most amazing colour, which kind of has not really shown up. I've never really seen it in anything else. It does have a bit of a crack through the lacquer. That's how I got it cheap. So you've got like a Bandmaster trem, not like the cheap Bandmaster, it's a proper steel one. It's neck through. It's got. I was impressed with the extra binding on the neck. I don't know if you can really see it, but instead of just being white binding, it's white, black, white, and it's the same around the headstock as well. It's got multi binding, Graphtec nut. The only thing that I'm not super over the moon with in this is it didn't actually have the original pickups in it. The original pickups should look like this. But they're very expensive and very desirable. The guy who I bought this off, before he sold me the guitar, he told me he tried to get pickups and he gave up bidding at 250 quid for 2 pickups, which is more than I paid for the guitar. So I've not got that. This pickup is an MMK45 from other Westones. That'll be what's in that blue one. And this one is a Japanese Gotoh that I had in my parts box. I'm not 100% sure exactly what I'm doing. I mean, it sounds great, but I just get the feeling this guitar is a little bit fancier. I mean, I'm used to Westones and always claim them being like the best quality built guitars you can get, and most of the ones I look at are the cheaper end of the range. You know, your Spectrums and well, the Thunder, I suppose, as well. Whereas this would be like the equivalent of a Thunder 3, not a Thunder 1. So it's basically the same build quality, but built with better stuff. So you get binding and a carved top and through neck and blah blah blah. It's also got push pulls, coil splits on both the volume knobs, with these mad metal knobs. So you're upturned so you can grip them for the coil splitting. I've not used this guitar very much, I have to be honest. We were already in lockdown. I think I managed to get it into. I maybe managed to get it into the studio once. I think we went in once after the first lockdown. I think so. I think I have actually used it for playing. So we're on the bridge, on the neck, both in single coil. Use my banjo. US string pedal. output jack's getting replaced. Not really. I always looked at this as being a bit more of a. The Westone Thunder was their attempt at a Les Paul type thing. This one maybe even more so than a Westone Thunder because it's got the carved top, so it's got sort of Les Pauliness though. It does that output jack's getting ripped out tonight. Yeah, so it's kind of because it's not. Mind you, see if this just kind of did that. Maybe it is a sort of Les Paul. Really, it does have a Strat type tremolo in it, or not a Strat type, a 2-point modern type tremolo in it. But I mean, Westone guitars are fantastic. I wanted this because I wanted to see what a really expensive Westone was like. This was like about 400 quid in 1984, I think this one was, 1984. And the sort of Spectrums and stuff were like 120, 130, so it's like 3 or 4 times the price. So I kind of wanted to see what Westone did if you gave them hundreds of money, because I'm normally comparing Westones that cost 120 quid or 150 quid new in 1984 to guitars today that cost $1,000, and they're the same. So I mean, this is, I mean, if you just going purely by quality wise, obviously I know you're not going to get the same amount of money for this as you would for a Les Paul, but it's a better guitar. I need to get a Les Paul in my trade up thing so that I can possibly, so I can have the Les Paul and go, yeah, it's better. Because I mean, rocking an excellent guitar. Pause again. And here's the Yamaha RGX-A2, which I swapped with my pal Scott, who's also the guy that I bought that off. I swapped it for a Dean ML Camouflage, sort of flying V and an Explorer at the same time. Had a couple of ML guitars, didn't like them. One of them was the first one was a Dean Baby ML, which actually I did quite like, but I didn't like the shape, so I made it into a flying V, made another body for it, and gave it to my girlfriend. The second one was a Washburn. I didn't like that one at all. It was a really bad guitar. It was a Dime 332, I think it was called. And I don't know what it was about it. Some guitars just don't know. And then I got this Camouflage one. I don't like it at all. It's like it hung on my wall for like about 2 months before I actually did a video for it. So I just kept looking at it, thinking maybe if I kept looking at it I'd eventually like it. I mean, technically it was a fine guitar. It played alright, sounded good, blah blah blah. It just, the look just totally didn't do anything for me. So I swapped it for this, which I've always liked the look of. So these are sort of 2000s or 2006 or something. This one is, it doesn't tell you in the headstock. I've done a video for it. So this is the one that's designed by what I reckon is the motorbike, the head of the motorbike department in Yamaha. So it's kind of got a sort of stormtrooper / expensive motorbike look to it. Cool tuners, awesome bridge, piece of work of art. These are Yamaha or DiMarzio P90 sized humbuckers, and it comes with a volume and a three-way rotary. See, when you turn this is a rotary pickup selector, so it's like blue for bridge, green for neck, and then both for on. Normally these are just humbuckers. I added a coil split, so when if you pull this up, it's coil split. If you push it down, it puts on another light bulb which shouldn't be there, which makes it 2 humbuckers. So I'll just play a wee bit of this. Very light guitar. These are awesome. I just swapped one of these for a Fender Strat, and I think the guy got a good deal. They're excellent, and eventually these are total collectors of the future. Available. I've seen a red one and I've seen a black one as well. White's the best one. I think if someone had offered me a swap, the white one for the black one, actually someone did, said that, yeah, I've got 2 black ones, I really want a white one, so I'm just going to paint this one black. And I was like, oh, I'll swap it for a white one, because I had 2. And he was in Texas or something. You're like, alright, well, it didn't really work, does it? So this is it in single coil, which this guitar should do. humbucker and bridge. US Dream pedal. Neck pickup. Whoa. Well, a really nice guitar. I'm glad I didn't sell this. That was how I got away with swapping the other one, because I kept this one. This one being a little bit more dented than the other one was. But being Yamaha, the consistency was ridiculous. The only way you would tell is really is this chip and the fact that this one's got an orange light bulb in it, whereas the other one I put a red light bulb in instead. I think I might have put the red light bulb on this side instead of this side as well. But thoroughly recommended guitars. Definitely a keeper. Fantastic. I've done quite a few videos on this. You can't see the writing on it. It's got chi lines on it. You can sort of see them there. So the music comes from your heart down through this pickup into the controls and then out the output jack. Yeah, great. Well done. And the last one for this part one. This was going to be one video and I was going to do it. I was going to pause it halfway through, but we're already hitting an hour, so I'll do the other video tomorrow. So this is up till right down there, June. I didn't buy a guitar in July. There you go. So July was a quiet month for me. So you can see why I bought this one. This is Blue Burst as opposed to this one which I bought the month before, which was Red Burst, which I'd never seen before. And I was like, oh, there's a blue one. Not the same guitar though. This is a Spectrum 3. Which is an interesting one. It was only made in 1984. The Spectrum range, you see a lot of West Tone Spectrums, they came out in 1985. They're not this shape, and there's a whole range of them. This is just this one. Possibly one of the first ever HSH guitars, because they did have one, it was called, they changed the name of it. So this is the 1984 version, which is this one, is the Spectrum 3, but in 1983 it was called a Concord 3, I think, or something like that. Basically exactly the same guitar, apart from it didn't have this paint job. It didn't have black hardware, and it didn't have push-pull pots. It had switches instead. But so that would be, I think, might be the first ever HSH sort of main guitar you could get. And interestingly, also in the 1983 catalogue, which never caught on, they had an SHS one. So it was like a single coil in the bridge in the neck and a humbucker in the middle, and I kind of want one of them just because that's really weird. Oh, I was going to say I've done that with my Telecaster, but it's not on the wall anymore. I took it off to put these guitars up. Yeah, so this is, I would say that's a bit of Strat. That's a sort of Les Paul. This is a Strat, so it's Strat scale, flat top. This one's got the curve like a Stratocaster does. Coil splits, phase. Can't remember exactly how these switches work. Criminally underplayed guitar, this one by me. Some of these are going to be a wee bit dusty and stuff because they've not been played. So that's your coil split. So neck, single coil. Oh, it's really... Yeah. this is very like that Japanese Strat I just bought. Bit cheaper though. This was in the attic, so it was very out of tune when I tuned it. So I'm just going to pause it while I tune. Yeah, that's just what happens when you don't spend enough time playing the guitars. It's not been played in well enough. I didn't realise quite how stratty this was, because it's amazing, because it looks, it looks the same as that one, but it feels completely different. So it's not just the shape, but it's obviously just everything else about it, with the slightly longer, the 6-a-side headstock, and again they got the big one of the major things I think what Westone did when they started in the early 80s was all their guitars had really top-notch Gotoh hardware on it, so it's got like you don't tend to see them with pickups and stuff changed, because the stuff that's in them is really good. It's got the MMK45 pickups, it's got the Bedmaster bridge, Gotoh tuners, so you don't, unlike a lot of other guitars from this sort of this is what, 84, you tend to see them, someone's put pickups and all change things about. You really don't change it, because everyone on it's really good. You've kind of already bought one that's been souped up, and it's like, even for the added switches, it's got like coil split, and it's got a phase, split and phase, very very thin sounding. Less of that. Drops. Fancy bus pedal. Yeah, so this one's not holding tune, but that's due to lack of use, the fact that it was in the attic and criminally underplayed by me. This is much nicer than this is one of those ones that it's been on the sort of toying with selling it idea a few times, but it's one of those ones you go back and play it and it's like, alright, it's actually it's really good. And also it kind of goes really well with that one. I think what maybe put me off with this one a little bit, because I kind of snap bought it, because I really liked it. I thought that the red burst thing just looked so amazing. I thought, the blue one is perfect, and because the argument about that's a Les Paul, this is a Strat, even though they both kind of look the same, it's like perfect pairing. But I looked up the catalogue for these, and this was half the price of that one, new, and I paid the same for both of them. So that kind of, I still think I got a really good buy with this one. But so when you see the catalogue, you go, it's a Spectrum 3 because they're both 84, and it's like it was 199 or 250 or something like that, and then that's 400. You're like, oh, right. But the quality's still the same. It doesn't have the fancy stuff. There's no binding, no carved top, same bridge. Well, the same pickups just now, but that's because that doesn't have the proper pickups in it. Same tuners, Graphtec nut. Just they spent more time on that, you know, being neck through and stuff like that to make it a bit cheaper. Why did it end on a guitar that wasn't going to stay in tune? I think the problem with temperature doubles when you've got like a tremolo, especially this one's a floating trem as well. When you do the wiggle thing, it does the flutter thing. Can't normally do that with a. It needs to be a really good Floyd Rose to do that. I bet you this will start staying in tune if I just play it for a couple of hours. Just like the strings probably aren't even bent in. It is the electros on it, so I probably put electros on it and then forgot about it. Is that somebody come to see me? No. Oh, it said good there. I don't mind getting visitors, it's nice. Not very many happening this day and age. Yeah, so that was part one. First 6 months of 2020 of me decided not to buy any more guitars and just getting them in. So, what's the best one? What was the best buy of 2020? So, we're talking the Vox Bass, which I really like and is keeping. Got the Aria Thorsound Bass Standard, which is really nice as well. Got the EBO, which is, if it hadn't been painted silly and didn't have the extra pickup in it, it's just an EBO, it's fine. It's still a good guitar, but it doesn't have any sort of draw to me. Because it was so cheap, and it was always going to be mine, it doesn't really count. See, some of them, that I bought that for myself, saw it on eBay, bought it. That one, it came across me, it was one of my pals was getting rid of it, fine. Kind of fits into the same category as that, as in they're not worth any money, didn't cost anything or very little, so I'll just keep them. That one was a bit of I was just interested in it. I think maybe I was just bored or something. I'd been watching it for a while and eventually managed to haggle the price down on it. It wasn't, the problem with that is though it's not different enough from the black one I've got. It's a 3 single coil instead of an HSS, but also that one's, no, so Japan 84, Japan 82, was that to say 2008, Indonesia 87, Japan / Korea, 84 Japan, 2000 and, I can't remember, was it 6 or 2005, somewhere like that. It was a Taiwanese. 84 Japan, I can't remember what year this is either, Indonesia, Jai 15 or 2015 maybe. Yeah, so an interesting wee collection, and to be honest, it's quite bass heavy for the first. I started last year was bass time, you know, 3 basses in a row. Quite an interesting collection though. I mean, if you're really talking about having, you know, the ultimate guitar collection, what do you really need in it? Well, if you're a bass playing guitarist like myself, well, you got a P bass, then you got a smaller P bass, and you got a short bass. Well, there's the entire range of basses that you want, or I would want him, you know, not doing the poppy, slappy, funky stuff, just like for playing 70s rock. And then I suppose you'd guess that's a sort of Strat, but is it? So and so is this, and then you've got a sort of Les Paul, and then you've got a P90-ish sort of shreddy guitar maybe, and then you've got like a death metal thing. So I mean, it's still, I mean, if that was just somebody's, you know, guitar collection, nice guitar collection, I would like it. Especially since it's one I've chosen. Yeah, so as I was saying, bought intentionally, acquired, wee bit of an experiment, saw that, just fell in love with it, had to have that, because I've always wanted a Westone Thunder. That had been hanging on my pal Scott's wall for years, I kept seeing it, and just like, oh, I've always wanted one of them. I remember trying one when they first came out, being really unimpressed with it. Yeah, so kind of, I was after that for a while, so I could say that was intentional. The 8-string was a donation. A lovely guy who's in, used to be in bands in the 2 bands I was in. I can't remember what his name is, unfortunately. Lovely guy. He'd got it in a bad trade and someone had ripped him off, and he was going to throw it out, right? And then he thought, what's that guy? He was aware of me through YouTube. He builds guitars, and I noticed when I was in his living room, which has been converted into a sort of guitar workshop thing, in the corner was like a laptop sitting just playing, you know, your usual YouTube videos that he just kind of had running, like sort of like having the radio on in the background type thing. And I was thinking, that's perfect. That's probably why he watches these videos. So if you are there still there, rocking, I want to say, I don't want to get your name wrong. Was it Alan? I can't remember. I wish I could remember. John? No. Anyway, yes, and then this one I bought mostly just because it matches that one. I do have another Westone, which is the reason I keep thinking about selling this one. I've got a Westone Concord, which I got, the body was all cracked and I painted it yellow. And it's kind of like these two, where it was so cheap and probably not worth anything, but really amazing. And it's basically this guitar, apart from it's got a one-piece maple neck and two humbuckers, and it's got a Strat trem. But I mean, it's a very, very similar guitar, but not worth any money because it's been I painted it yellow, and they're not meant to come in yellow. So really my only downside about this particular guitar is the fact that I like my Concord better because it was like 20 quid and I painted it yellow, which made it more fun, whereas this one, it wasn't 20 quid and I didn't paint it. But super high quality, gigging, top notch guitars these. You know, it's like this is in every way an equal to that Japanese Strat I got the other day, and the other week, which comes in video 2, which will be tomorrow. It was going to be today. The plan was I was going to video all of these and then hit that pause thing, which I've actually managed to hit every time. Not once did I press stop, so I've still managed to get this all into one video without having to edit it. I was going to say that on the last guitar, and then I decided not to because if I said that I would jinx it. So, viewer question is like, which of these guitars would you say was the best one? I don't know, the best buy. You can't actually. I'm kind of not. I don't like telling people how much I pay for these things. But regardless of price, assume that they cost what the average, what they cost if you ever found them on eBay. What's your favourite one? And then I can do a sort of a table thing, maybe see how many votes each one gets. If I had to guess, I don't know. It's got to be that one, I think, just because it looks like it does. It's really ridiculous having a high end Westone. I mean, I'm talking this is a middle of the range Westone, but that's a high end one. It's a bit different. That's really good as well. And I really like that bass. That's quite good as well. I failed to choose which Strat was best when I was doing this the other day. It's like when you talk about my guitars, I like them all. That's why they're kind of there. I'd say that if you're what's the best of this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The best of this 8. It's not the EBO. It's not the Vantage. It's not this one. I think it might be that bass. Don't know. Depends what mood I'm in. I forgot how good that bass was when I was playing it almost an hour ago. In fact, exactly an hour ago I was playing that. I forgot how much I really like that bass. It's really simple and unpretentious, but really good. So, have a nice, safe night tomorrow night. Don't be going out and congealing with other people. That's not a... so just have to sit in and watch the bells, and you'll have another video of me sit and get pure hammered. Watch my other video, which will be worse than this one. I think I'm a bit... I just happened to choose the first half. It was 16 guitars like this year. 16! And it's like, that's me trying not to buy any. I'm trying not to buy ones that, you know, sometimes I can't say no. That's the problem. That's one of the reasons I don't have the problem. I don't suffer from, see when you see new guitars and you go into, you know, guitar and you go, oh, there's a guitar there, and there's, you know, half a dozen different colours. They've got 10 of them. I don't have to buy it today. I can buy it in 6 months' time or whatever. So therefore I don't buy it. Whereas you see these things and you go, I've never seen one of these before ever. Will I ever see one again? It's not even a case of am I willing to pay big to get it, because, you know, sometimes you see, like, if you're looking up the Washburn Wings now, you can get them now, but some folk are wanting £1,000 for them. But so if money's not an object, you can buy them. Whereas things like this, really the only way you're going to get one is finding somebody like me and then offering me a pure stupid amount of money I can't say no to, as opposed to me, somebody who's actually selling it, because they're just too rare. That's rare. Never seen another one. That's rare. Never seen another one. Lots of them. Never seen one exactly the same as that. Never seen one of them. You see quite a lot of them. They will, I guarantee that in 10 years time they will be desirable guitars though. Once it's the future. It's too early a guitar. It's not futuristic enough for that guitar. The 8-string, I'm really pleased I've got an 8-string. It's great because I don't think I would ever have bought one, and it is fun, especially the whole one. Once I'd worked out the concept of cheating and using it to play what I want to play rather than playing what it's meant to do. You know, kind of more having like a baritone guitar or a bass with the coil splits, just playing it slightly differently really worked in well. It's also it's a really high spec one, you know, through neck and Seymour Duncan's in it, so I mean it's a quality piece of kit. And this guitar is really comfy. When Westone started up, they had their own R&D department. They were the Matsumoku factory, and they actually, when they started up their own company, I think it was 1980, they had a whole department of the factory that was research and development to design new models. So this was a completely original design for them. This is basically a Thunder body shape. Thunder's kind of more like, well, Thunder's kind of halfway between this and that, because that's got a carved top through neck and all that. You get a Thunder that's pretty much this, apart from it's Les Paul scale, so it's a 24 3/4 inch, not the 25 1/2 like this one is. That was 24 3/4. But this, although it is a Strat, doesn't look like one, and obviously it's got metal credentials because it's got humbuckers in it. I'm going to play this guitar tonight. I'm not going to do the other video, which I was going to do just now. I will look that out. I'll look all that stuff out later. Rock on, long one. Halby and a Merry Christmas. Have a good year next year. Yes, year. I think tomorrow's video won't be as long as this, so I'll maybe do a bit more of a sort of year in review. This is actually quite a good year for me. There was a couple of really bad things. One is not being able to go and see Civet, and one is in a lockdown thing. But to be honest, the lockdown, well, not good for the world or humanity. Right, yes, next year might be worse with the B word coming into play. It's like, I've tried to stop watching politics on I don't watch telly anymore. I gave up. I couldn't stand watching the news. And I'm watching. The last time I watched, I think it was Jackie Bird on it. I just wanted to put my foot through the telly. They're just a lying, absolute horrible, horrible, evil cow. But they know they're lying, and it's just like so. They have a wee bit of a rant going on there for the end of the year. So hopefully next year will be a bit better, and I'll get to go to China as soon as I'm able to. I'm going, and I'm going to take the GoPro and Civic's computer back to her. She's not getting it back, but I'm going to take it with me. I'll do videos in China, and I think I might do a wee. Of course, I've had like a year to think about it. I think I'm going to do like a wee tour, Malco's tour of China. We'll go to interesting places, and I'll take wee 5-minute videos of things that we don't normally see here. There's lots of things I never took photos of that I wish I had. You know, just things like there's bits on the roads where you're walking along, and it's like, you know, there's like a storm drain sort of thing. So you're just walking on the pavement, it's fine, and then suddenly there's a 20-foot drop between two buildings, and you're like, I might fall down there. And it's like, well, they don't. In China, it's your fault if you fall down the hole. So it's like, especially even when they're doing roadworks and stuff like that as well, you're kind of crossing the road and like jumping over trenches with guys in, you know, down digging a hole, and you're like, you shouldn't be able to do this. You know what I mean? You should put a tape round it and walk round, or divert the pavement on the other side of the road or something. It's like, it just doesn't happen there. Lots of these stupid things like that. Power. There's a power station outside Civic's house as well, like, you know, like a junction box thing. You know, it's that thing you always see that. I don't even know what you call them, like a transformer station, you know, when it steps it down or whatever, and it's like, it's in the middle of the pavement, and it's like there's a board up to there, and then there's high voltage cables and like those things that look like discs there. So it's like I could literally just go and grab onto however many 500 volts or whatever it is just with my hand, and it's like, it should be further away, but crazy things like that. hour and 16. I think this might be a record for the longest video ever. And if you're watching this tomorrow night on Hogmanay, you can stick the two in together and you'll have a super long, it'll be a 2 bottle of Bucky session for you. Rock on.